Over the course of the last few years, Dollywood has ramped up their coaster installations dramatically. Lightning Rod and Fire Chaser Express have been the most recent developments of this trend, but the catalyst for this movement was Wild Eagle. Wild Eagle is a winged coaster manufactured by B&M. It is the first of its kind to be installed in the United States. The coaster's pavilion makes an excellent first impression, as a large eagle statue rests just outside the entrance to the queue. Unfortunately, this level of grandiose is not found on any other aspect of the coaster's theming. The queue, which has two separate loading platforms for each side of the coaster, is devoid of any theming whatsoever, and is instead just a large wooden structure. The train itself is adorned with eagle heads on each of the cars, but aside from those two notable exceptions, theming is largely an afterthought. This isn't much of an issue, as most roller coasters lack theming, but after seeing how much effort went into Lightning Rod and Mystery Mine, it's hard not to be a little disappointed with Wild Eagle. Wild Eagle's design is interesting and a bit backward. The coaster costs $20 million to build and features a height of 210 feet. This is absolutely massive for a winged coaster and technically makes Wild Eagle the tallest of its kind. But due to the fact that the majority of Wild Eagle's track rests on a hill, which is accessed by the lift, Wild Eagle's first drop is far smaller than its actual height. 80 feet smaller to be exact. The first drop is 130 feet. Using this hill to hold the majority of the coaster is understandable, as if this was not the case, the coaster would have to cross over the midway. This is something Dollywood rarely does. Mystery Mine does it on one occasion, and like many other Dollywood coasters, Lightning Rod and Tennessee Tornado, it's very difficult to get a good look at the layout from the concourse. But this doesn't change the fact that Wild Eagle fails to capitalize on its height, and it feels like a missed opportunity. The coaster is still able to pull off a respectable top speed of 61 miles per hour, and it still has a decent length of 3,127 feet. But none of these metrics are particularly impressive. B&M are widely regarded as one of the best manufacturers in the coaster industry and have been for years. Wild Eagle demonstrates why. This coaster is incredibly smooth and utilizes B&M's new overhead restraints. These utilize a solid lap bar with a rubber vest that covers the rider's chest. They are held together by solid wide arches that are placed far enough away that headbanging is impossible. This gives Wild Eagle a huge advantage over other B&M coasters, as headbang has long plagued most of them. The only issue found when it comes to the manufacturing quality of this roller coaster is the tendency of the restraints to tighten during the ride. This is only noticeable after the ride has ended, and from what I read, it's quite rare, but it can be highly uncomfortable, especially since the vest-like design will compress your entire chest. Wild Eagle begins with a slight left turn onto the lift hill. The train is then pulled up onto the hill and dropped 130 feet. This segues directly into a large loop. This is the most forceful element of the coaster, and it's worth noting that unless you're riding towards the rear of the train, there are not many more elements like this. The loop is immediately followed by the always exciting zero-G roll and an Immelman loop to reverse the direction of the coaster. It then enters a giant flat spin, which is perhaps the most visually interesting element on the coaster, and then shoots into a camelback. The flat spin was an excellent addition, but the camelback feels out of place. It's always a bit unnecessary for a coaster with overhead restraints to attempt to provide airtime. This rarely works, and Wild Eagle is not an exception. It does have variety, but there are other ways to do that without compromising the integrity of the coaster. The roller coaster then ends with a spiral and an 8 curve before coming to a stop on the brake run. These elements are a good example of another attempt at variety. Unfortunately, they still fall a bit short. Riders in the back will get plenty of force despite the coaster's low speed through these elements, but if you're anywhere else, they have no bite whatsoever. The coaster needed to have more speed through these elements to use them to their full potential. Overall, Wild Eagle is a good coaster. It's a very good coaster. It's just not great. The first 4 inversions are exhilarating, but the coaster meanders around afterwards. The back certainly offers a better ride, and the front certainly has excellent views. And while Wild Eagle is a must-ride, don't expect to be blown away by it. Wild Eagle gets an 8.5 out of 10.